Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here today. I am sharing with you today number 2 of my series on lessons from the gap year, and we're going to be talking about doing big things that scare you, and I'm really glad that you're here. So if you missed lesson 1 from my lessons from the gap year, you can go and watch that right here. I decided that I wanted to kind of share what I've learned over this past year and some change as I have been on this grown-up gap year. If you're new to my channel, I'm so glad that you're here. If it's your very first time, you may not know that for the last, now going on 15 months, I have been on a grown-up gap year. I had a full career. I raised 3 kids. My husband is an amazingly encouraging partner and was through all of that. And I kind of came to a transition in my career, and it was actually his idea. He said, why don't you take a year and just explore the world? I had started working full-time when I was 18. I never really had that kind of, college explore the world experience that a lot of my peers had had, and I kind of wanted that. So I set off on this crazy adventure. If you look around my videos, you'll see lots of trips to Disney, you'll see trips to London and Paris, and big things that I never could have imagined myself doing. And the thing I've kind of decided through all this, first of all, 99% of those things scared the living daylights out of me. A lot of you have reached out and said, I would never have the courage to do the things that you do. And the thing that you need to know about me is I'm kind of naturally a pretty fearful person. I don't like being out in the dark. I like things to be safe. I love being at home. I have always been this way. So to become this person who's going out and doing these grand adventures is most surprising to me. But what I decided was, when we're in our 20s and 30s and we're kind of building our lives, there's this muscle that we exercise regularly that is a doing scary things muscle. And we don't have any choice because we're doing crazy things like getting married and maybe starting a family or starting a new career or moving cross country or buying a house. Huge adulting things that just will shake you to your core. But you muster the courage and you do these things and you work that muscle pretty regularly. And then I think what happens is you kind of get established, right? Your kids are grown, you're maybe in the place where you've lived for a long time, and unless there is some jarring life event which sort of forces you to learn this lesson, whether that be a divorce or an illness or a death, those kinds of things, a lot of us become very complacent in our lives. And I want to say to those of you that have gone through a divorce or a death or an illness, you guys are my heroes, and you've had to learn these lessons in a very hard and challenging way. And I just want you to know that I'm with you and I am for you, and I'm very proud of you in the journey that you're on. What I didn't want to become was this woman in her late 40s and 50s who was only ever making the safe choices. I really feel that making scary choices and pushing ourselves is the key to having a lot of happiness and fulfillment. I think a lot of us, especially women, look at raising our children as kind of our big accomplishment, or moving up the ladder in our career, or both, as was the case with me, that, okay, now I've done that and now I'm just gonna sort of rest on my laurels. If you're looking for some expert advice on this, there is a fabulous book called Falling Upward by a guy named Richard Rohr. He's actually a priest, and it is a phenomenal book about this very topic. And if you kind of decide, well, I have my house, I have my savings is sort of intact, and my children are on a good path, and so now I'm just gonna coast through the rest of my life. For me, I knew that was gonna cause a great deal of discouragement and depression, because I need to be stretching myself to do the big things that scare me. So when I set out to go to Paris by myself, terrified. When I set out to go to London by myself, terrified. When I set out to run this relay race, this 75-mile relay race that I ran last weekend with these women, terrified. So when you guys reach out and say, I don't have the courage to do what you do, I don't have it either. Like, in and of myself, all of these big scary things terrify me, and all I want to do is hide under the covers and never leave my house again. But I know that is not good for me. It's not good for my mind. It's not good for my body. And that stretching myself to do new things is really, for me, gonna be the key to embracing this next chapter of my life, because I still have a lot to do. I want to influence people. I want people to influence me. I want to see the world. I want to share in new experiences. I want to meet new amazing people. And I want to embrace that instead of shrinking back, which would be so easy to do right now. I want to actually lean forward and push myself to do those new things that I never imagined myself doing. When I was driving down to run this 75-mile race last weekend, I had very much that same feeling as I did when I got on that first airplane to fly to Paris by myself. And you know, there's only so much you can be prepared for. Let me go back. When I was flying to Paris and when I was on that airplane, and I had those, whatever it was, 10 hours, I kept thinking about all the things that could go wrong. And I think my biggest fears were that I would get lost and that the train system would confuse me and I wouldn't be able to make my way around Paris. Guess what? Both of those things happened. If you watch that vlog, I had a very scary night. I literally got lost in Paris at night with no phone. Literally, that happened to me. But you know what? I did it and I'm okay. And I used the brain that God gave me, and I used the interpersonal skills that God gave me, and I found some safe people, and I asked for advice, and they helped me get on the train. By the way, none of them spoke English, so still to this day, I don't know if angels were involved or what, but how people who didn't speak the language and I didn't speak theirs, but somehow we took care of each other is kind of a miracle to me. But the thing is, pushing forward and doing the things that scare you doesn't mean that something bad isn't going to happen. Bad things may very well happen. But here's my word to you, if that is your justification for not doing the big scary things. Bad things can happen to you at home, right in your own home. Traveling or not traveling, running or not running, adventuring or not adventuring, having the hard conversation or not having the hard conversation, right? Because these things might not just be big adventures. They could be things that you know you're supposed to do, conversations you know you're supposed to have with people, career conversations you know you're supposed to have. Doing those things is scary, but not doing them has consequences as well. You could just as easily have something bad happen to you while you're at home. If you don't have the scary conversation, something bad could still happen to you. So here's the bottom line. I am betting that everyone watching this right now in their lives has some big scary thing. It's a relational thing, it's a travel thing, it's a running related thing, whatever the case may be. And you are not doing it because you're afraid. So here's how I want to encourage you. Number one, I want you to learn how to have some more courage and to move forward. One of the great resources that I've had is Brene Brown. She just started a new Netflix series. I will put that in the description below. She will change your life and she will give you some words to really help you push through that. Her book, Daring Greatly, was very influential for me. But the other thing is I want you to go and write down that thing and I want you to start facing it. I think when we have that big scary thing we're afraid of, we just push it down and push it down and push it down and hope that it goes away. My kids had this book when they were little about this monster. The more you're afraid of it, it was just a little monster. And the more the child was afraid of it, the monster got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's how these big scary things can become in our lives. So I am very grateful for the huge lesson of the gap year to push past my fears, to push past complacency and what's easy and do the big scary things that scare me. They're not only great to build your character, they can actually be an awful lot of fun. Good luck with whatever your big scary thing is. Comment below if this resonated with you. Heck, comment below if it didn't. I'm just glad to be here with you on this journey. I love talking to you guys. I hope you'll subscribe. I'm super excited about lesson 3 from the gap year, so you'll want to subscribe and hit those bell notifications because you're not going to want to miss it. Until next time, bye.